Hello, once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our virtual classroom. Today, we are going to be going over two lessons in one. It's going to be 28-2 and 29-1, in which we'll be dealing with the median and with the range. And we're going to review some of the things we've learned so far. I'm sorry, give me a second. It is allergy season. All right. So let's talk about the median. Median, ladies and gentlemen, as you can kind of tell from the name, median means middle. Median, M-E-D, median. It means the values in the middle of a distribution. It is the values or the value in the middle of a distribution. So for example, you'll have a list and you want to get the value in the middle. Now, it is important to know that these must be organized from least to greatest. Otherwise, any number could be in the middle. But if they're organized from least to greatest, then that's going to tell you in an increasing way which one's going to be in the middle of the distribution. And then you're going to see in a second that sometimes you'll have two values in the middle. So if you have an odd number of values, like 5, 7, 9, 11, etc. There's always going to be one value in the middle. But if you have an even number of values like 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 30, 50, etc., then you're always going to have two values in the middle. We'll talk about that in a second. But for now, let's look at this distribution right here. Here we have 9 numbers. And if we want to find the median, number 1, we should first order them from least to greatest. So 0, 0. 3, 3, 4, 4, etc. And we go all the way until we have all of those 9 numbers there. And then it's pretty easy to tell which one's in the middle in this distribution because it's pretty small. But if it was much larger, the easiest way that I have found is to simply pair up the numbers as you get closer towards the middle. For example, we have a 0 and a 7 on the outside. And then we have a 3 and a 6 on the outside. And then a 4 and a 6, and then a 4 and a 5, until finally we get to the one number in the middle. And notice how to the right of this 5, we have 4 numbers, and to the left, we have 4 numbers, meaning that 5 is in the middle, so 5 would be the median. 5 would be the median. This first 5 would be the median. Okay, so that happens whenever we have an odd number of values. But what would happen if I had an even number of values? For example, if I had an extra 0 over here. Well then, let's pair them up and see what happens. So 0 and 7 are now paired together. 0 and 6 are paired together. 3 and 6, 4 and 5. And then notice that we have 2 numbers, 4 and 5. All right. 4 and 5, we have 4 numbers above this 5, and we have 4 numbers below this 4. But notice that neither 4 nor 5 are right in the middle. Ladies and gentlemen, that's when we're going to look at this right here. Whenever we have 2 values in the middle, then we need to get the average of those 2 values. We have to find the mean, meaning we're going to have to add those 2 numbers together. So 4 plus 5. And after we get a sum, we're going to have to divide that by 2, by the number of numbers that we added together. So we're getting the average, we're getting the mean. So we divide by 2 because we added 2 numbers together, and that gives us 4.5. Notice that that number, 4.5, is right in the middle between 4 and 5. That would be the median. Now, as you can see, what the median tells us is it tells you that there's going to half of the values are going to be above that number and half of the values will be below that number. But again, the things I need you to remember is that in order to get the median of a numerical data set, you organize them from least to greatest, and then you look at what number is right smack in the middle. If there are 2 numbers, because there's an even number of values, then you add them together and divide by 2. Pretty simple. The mode is something that we've already seen in this class, and mode simply means the most, the value that occurs the most often. So for example, up here, we technically don't have a mode. We have multiple modes because 4, 5, and 6 all occur the same number of times. However, if let's say I added an extra 6 to this distribution, even though it's not in order, notice how now we would have 1, 2, 3, 6s, so 6 would be the mode. All right, so the mode is the value that occurs the most often. If we had a dot plot, it would be the one with the most dots. That value, that would be the mode. So that's pretty simple, right? And then finally, we have the range. Range, ladies and gentlemen, is always going to be the difference between the maximum, that is the highest value, not the one that occurs most often, but the highest value, and the minimum, the lowest value. So in this data set, the highest value, the maximum, would be 7. The minimum, which means the least, would be 0. So the range would be 7 minus 0. So this distribution has a range of 7. And later on, we'll talk about how, or rather why, these are actually important. But that's the gist of it. Okay, the median, the one or ones in the middle, mode, the one that occurs the most often, in range, the distance from the least value to the greatest value. So really quickly, if we go into our assignment, notice that there's only one assignment. There's only one assignment, but it has 2 different sections. There's 28-2, which goes from 1 through 8. And after 8, we go back to number 1 and 29-1. So on OneNote, beginning with 28-2, we go to number 1 and we're given a data set. We're given a data set where we're asked to organize this from least to greatest. Now, what I recommend, ladies and gentlemen, is that you first write down all the numbers on your notebook so that you can have a list of them and then start organizing from least to greatest. Why write them both? I mean, why write them 2 times? Well, because you want to be able to cross them out as you go, so that you don't repeat a number, or so that you don't skip a number. For example, let's look for the least number here. The least would be 18. So I'm going to cross out 18 and then I'm going to write it down. All right, there's 18 and then there's 119. And then is there a 20? There is a 20. And be very careful not to skip. Is there another 20? I don't think so, no. So when you write a number, always ask yourself, is there another one of those? Is there a 21? There is a 21. Immediately cross it out. Oh, another 21. And write it down. Is there another 21? No. The 22s? There's a 22. It is not hard, but it is tedious. It takes time and it takes being careful. There's another 22. So we can see there's 3 22s. Any 23s? No, but there is a 24. And finally, there is a 41. What I recommend after you think you're finished with your list is count how many values you have and make sure that they match. Here we have 10 values, and here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. If I only had 9, that means I missed one. If I had 10, if I had 11, then I had an extra one, but no, we're good. All right, so that's number 1. We just listed them off from least to greatest. But then number 2, let us find the median. Okay, so 18 and 41, 19 and 24, 20 and 22, 21 and 22. Notice that both 21 and 22 are in the middle. So we're going to add them together. 21 plus 22 is equal to 43. And then since we added 2 numbers, we're going to divide by 2, which would give me 21.5, which is right smack in the middle between 21 and 22. So that would be the median. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. Now that's precisely what you would do for the other ones here on 28-2. Now, if we go to 29-1, we can see that the first thing, well, we do numbers 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. Well, number 1 is, what are the shapes for each distribution? Well, notice that the first one kind of goes straight up and then comes down. So it's like a very broad triangle. So I would say that's pretty symmetrical. This one is also pretty symmetrical. And this one is definitely symmetrical as well. So they're all symmetrical. However, for each one of these, we're going to find the mean and the median. So remember, mean is adding all of these together. For example, I'll do the first one with you. So we have 60 plus 65 plus 70 plus 75 plus 80 plus 80. Notice that we have two 80s plus 85 plus 90. Oops, it's a plus sign. Plus 95 plus 100. All right, so if I take the tens, so we have 60, 60, that's 120 plus 70. Sorry, that's 190 plus another 70, 260 plus 80, 340. I don't want to do this in my head. I'm just going to use a calculator. We're going to use a calculator for this. 60 plus 65 plus 70 plus 75 plus 80 plus 80 plus 85 plus 90 plus 95 plus 100. So we get 800. Now we divide 800 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 800 divided by the 10 values would give me 80. So the average of the first one is 80. That's the mean. And the median would be the one in the middle. Now, don't just split it in half. Let's see if that's indeed in the middle. So this and this, this and this, this and this, because it's not always going to be the one that appears to be right in the middle. And then these two are in the middle. So 80 plus 80 is 160 divided by 2 would be 80. So the median and the mean are exactly the same, which is fine. All right, and you're going to do the same thing. And then finally, you would go on to number 4, which says, well, calculate the range, which again, range will be the maximum value. So this would be 100 minus 60, the range would be 40. And that's pretty much it. We can talk more about that later. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this video helpful. And with that in mind, I will see you next time.